Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivirjagacharya Ashto Tadasita Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivirjagacharya Ashto Tadasita Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON Guru Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radhakrishna Go Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Dhama Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dhama Ki Jai, Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Sankirtan Jagna Ki Jai, Brihatmadanga Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, their transcendental lordships, Shri Shri Panchatattva Ki Jai, Shri Shri Prahlad Nrsimha Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande, Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the third canto. Chapter is entitled Inquiries by Vidura, and today is text 6. Bhagavān evaiṣa sarva-kṣetreṣu avasthitaḥ amuṣya durbhagatvaṁ va kleśo va karmabhiḥ bhagavān ekaḥ evaiṣa sarva-kṣetreṣu avasthitaḥ amuṣya durbhagatvam va kleśo va karmabhiḥ kutaḥ bhagavān ekaḥ evaiṣa sarva-kṣetreṣv amuṣya durbhagatvam va kleśo va karmabhiḥ kutaḥ. Please chant. Vaishnavis? Bhagavān, the personality of Godhead. Ekaḥ, alone. Eva, eṣaḥ, all these. Sarva, all. Kṣetreṣu, in the living entities. Avasthitaḥ, situated. Amuṣya, of the living entities. Durbhagatvam, misfortune. Either. Kleśo, miseries. Karmabhiḥ, or karmabhiḥ, by activities. Kutaḥ, what for? Okay, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Lord, as a Supersoul, is situated in every living being's heart. Why then do the living entities' activities result in misfortune and misery? Please repeat. The Lord is a Supersoul, is situated in every living being's heart. Why then do the living entities' activities result in misfortune and misery? Purport. The next question put forward by Vidura to Maitreya is, why are the living entities subjected to so many miseries and misfortunes in spite of the Lord's presence in their hearts as the Supersoul. The body is considered a fruitful tree, and the living entity and the Lord as Supersoul are like two birds seated in that tree. The individual soul is eating the fruit of the tree, but the Supersoul, the Lord, is witnessing the activities of the other bird. A citizen of the state may be in miseries for want of sufficient supervision by the state authority. But how can it be possible that a citizen suffers from other citizens while the chief of the state is personally present? From another point of view, it is understood that the jīva, living entity, is qualitatively one with the Lord. And thus, his knowledge in the pure state of life cannot be covered by nescience, especially in the presence of the Supreme Lord. How then does the living entity become subjected to ignorance and covered by the influence of Maya? The Lord is the Father and Protector of every living entity, and He is known as bhūta-bhṛt, or the maintainer of the living entities. Why then should the living entity be subjected to so many sufferings and misfortunes? It should not be so, but actually we see that it happens everywhere. This question is therefore put forward by Vidura for solution. bhagavān ekaḥ evaiṣa sarva-kṣetreṣu amuṣya durbhagatvam va kleśo va karmabhiḥ kutaḥ. The Lord as the Supersoul is situated in every living being's heart. Why then do the living entity's activities result in misfortune and misery? Om Agyanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umitam Kena Tashmai Shri Gurave Namaha Katanchana Smite Yasmin Duskaram Sukaram Bhavet Vishmite Viparitam Shat Sri Chaitanyam Namamitam. Things that are very difficult to do become easy to execute if one somehow or other simply remembers Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But if one forgets him, then even easy things become difficult. To this Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I offer my respectful obeisances. Hare Krishna. So this, let me ask a question of each of you. Think about this. In the last month, have any of you experienced any distressful challenges in your life? If so, please raise your hand. Some of you are completely transcendental to all that, I think. But so it's a very relevant question that Vidura is asking of Maitreya. It's something that most of us have to deal with on a regular basis. And there's a lot I want to cover in this verse, so therefore I made the introduction quite short. But I'll bring up a point. This is in ISKCON's history. In the mid-'80s, there was a lot of problems in our movement and mass exodus of many, many devotees left the movement out of discouragement. Maybe they weren't being dealt with properly or a loss of confidence. And Vyasaki Prabhu, he's a famous Kirtaniya from America. He traveled all over the world and met with over 500 devotees that had disassociated themselves from ISKCON and had basically stopped practicing Krishna consciousness. And he found a common denominator in every single one of them, the same kind of issue, that somehow or other they were unable to process the challenges that they faced in the movement by applying the philosophy that's presented in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-8. Does everybody know that verse? Does anybody not know it? Okay, Krishna still loves you, don't worry. You still got time to learn it. It's kind of the Mahavakyam for processing distress. This was the first chapter in the Bhagavatam translations after Prabhupada left. Tatenu kampam shukshamikshamano bunjani vatmakritam vipakam redvag vapabir vidadan namaste jivetayo muktipade sadayabak. Anybody know the translation? There's left different translations that have been given. This is a translation that's in the Bhagavatam. I kind of like the ones that Prabhupada did a little better, but I'll do this one now because it's last minute. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Liberation means, just going into the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness, basically. Now, Prabhupada, in the 10th chapter of Nectar Devotion, under the heading Expecting the Lord's Mercy, he says that, he paraphrases this verse, and he says, this should be the guide for all devotees. So in other words, it's actually a very important and significant point. I have a close friend, Vidura Prabhu. He was on the original BBT editing team. He used to take Prabhupada's dictations through the dictaphone and transcribe them, digitalize them. And he's very learned, been brahmachari all these years, and super sincere. And he said that the purport to this shloka, 10:14-8, so I'm just going to give each of you assignment. If you don't already know it, learn it. Okay? We'll give you 1 week because we don't know exactly when the next big calamity will take place in your life. So you got to be ready for it. Okay? Prepare. And so anyway, yeah, do yourself a big favor because as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, that the path of a Vaishnava is filled with many thorns. Has anybody done Govardhan Parikrama barefooted before? If you have, raise your hand. Did you ever step on any thorns? Whew. Boy, they're really intense there, I'll tell you, aren't they? So we can expect this. And why does Krishna do this? Why does Krishna put his devotees in difficulty? I mean, this is what the verse is all about, right? Okay. The Supreme Lord, he couldn't be closer to us than anybody. He's right in our heart. Because why would Krishna do something like this? This is actually explained in the Purport, 10:14-8. But let me go through this. I just kind of got a little... where's Rasamani Nityananda today? He's giving the Bengali class. Okay, I was going to thank him for giving me... Huh? Oh, he'll be attending later online, right? Okay. I wanted to thank him for giving me this class because it's one of my favorite philosophical topics. And so let me see if I can be of service to any of you because it's a challenge, dealing with these distressful circumstances that Krishna puts us in. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I got notes that will go for like 2-hour class today, but I think Rasamana Nityananda is not here, so I probably won't get in trouble if I go for 2 hours. Everybody ready for it? Okay, anyway. So there's an interesting... okay, the Supersoul is in everyone's heart, but then there's a verse from the first canto. Let's see how many brainy devotees are here, where it's described that you can do something and then the Lord will be established within your heart. Anybody know what that verse is? First canto. It's within the first chapter. Okay, as soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of the Bhagavatam. Okay, you got it? Rakesh knows what I'm talking about now. I had to give him a lot of tips. Okay, what is it? That's right. So that seems a little bit contradictory. I thought the Supersoul is already in her heart. What are we doing here? You know, I mean... So I was meditating, and then late last night I got the answer. And I'll tell you what the answer to that is. But this verse it's a famous verse. Dharma pojita kaitavo tra paramo nirmatsaranam sutam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivram tapatrayan mulanam. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamune Krite Kim Va Parar Ishvaraha Sajo Ridya Varudite Tra Kritibi Shushubish Tatshanat. Okay, so this is the second verse of the first canto. It's kind of the Srila Vyasadev's introduction. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. Kaitava dharma, cheating religion. This Bhagavat Purana propounds the highest truth which is understandable by those who are fully pure in heart. Anybody fully pure in heart here yet? Well, you're getting there. It may take some more purification, but Krishna expertly will arrange that for you. Which is understandable by those who are fully pure in heart. Nirmatsaranam satam. Satam is devotee. Nirmatsaranam is pure in heart. The highest truth, okay. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. Okay, so there we go, get rid of the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in its maturity is sufficient in itself for God realization. What need is there for any other scripture? So then here it is. As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of the Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. So we know that the Lord is already in our hearts. Anybody know Bhagavad Gita 15:15? Come on, scholars. That's an easy one. Sarva-kṣetreṣv hridi sani vishno. Okay, so he's in everyone's heart. I gotta take can you get one of those tablets out of there for me? Put it in the cap. Okay, he's doing it. We're gonna be coughing. Just one. One's enough. So I'm seated within everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas am I to be known. Indeed, I'm the compiler of the Vedanta, and I'm a knower of the Vedas. So that's Krishna is situated. Krishna is saying, I'm situated in everyone's heart. So then why do we need to have him established there? Okay? Interesting question. But towards most living entities, he remains neutral. This is 929 Bhagavad Gita. Anyone know that one? Okay, all these brainy guys here from the youth camp, they're waiting for their Bhakti Shastri course to take place, and then they'll know all the answers. Samoham sarva-bhūteshu name dvesho stena priya Ye bhajanti tamam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to all. But, there's a big but here, whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I'm also a friend to him. So, the question may be, if I'm equal to all, then, and no one is a special friend, then why does he take a special interest in the devotees who are always engaged in pure devotional service? But it's not really a discrimination that Krishna is doing. It's natural. Just like any man in this material world. Do any of you have children? No? You're lucky. Okay. No, I'm only kidding. I mean, it's a big jugya. But there's a special caring that the father has for his son, or a mother has for her son or daughter, like that, right? So that's a natural, special interest that Krishna has. So, but Krishna is like, he's taking care of everyone. He's father of everybody in one sense. So just like it's monsoons are soon coming, and so the rain's going all over the place, and watering all the different plants. So Krishna is like that. But for a devotee, he gives special attention. They're always in Krishna consciousness, and they're always transcendently situated in Krishna. So Krishna also explains in Gita 4:11, Yayatam mam prapadyam te, tam stataiva bhajamyaham. So as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So there's a reciprocal relationship that begins as we advance in Krishna consciousness, and that reciprocation becomes greater and greater and greater. Actually, we're talking about suffering. Now, why is there suffering in the first place? I mean, Krishna creates this material world. It's kind of like a reformatory facility, right? You've been a bad boy, you've been a bad girl, so here you are. Now, this is an opportunity to reform. So we want to Ichadvesha samuttvena dvandvo mohena bharata sarva-bhūtāni samoham sargaya, what is it? How's that last line? Anyway, old brain. But the bewildered living entity comes in this material world overcome by the dualities of desire and hate. He wants to be the supreme controller. He has that desire, and he's envious of anybody that gets in his way, including Krishna. That's the devotee's mind, the non-devotee's mindset. So these different tribulations that one undergoes is part of that reform. So one gets frustrated with this material world, trying to enjoy separately from Krishna, and will take shelter of Krishna. I remember way back in, I think 2011 or 12, I went to Pune. I was getting some treatment at BKS Iyengar Yoga for an injured hip. And I remember seeing a study that was done by those personalities, great personalities, that took the Discover Yourself seminar, and how many of them actually became devotees, how many remained brahmachari. And it was remarkable that I think it was like 85% of those that took up devotional service, their motivation was a high level of distress or anxiety that they were going through. Is that right, Raishna? Wow, I remembered. How about that? The brain's working. Okay, so it plays a role. And even after one becomes a devotee, it's kind of ongoing, because there's a we may be really trying hard to practice pure bhakti, but there's a residual mentality that may still be there to enjoy in the material world separately from Krishna. So Krishna sends these little, little reminders. Okay, and Prabhupada told Giriraj Swami that Krishna takes charge of your sinful reactions and uses them to help you advance in Krishna consciousness. So, in the purport to 1.9.19, Prabhupada says, this is the passing of Bhishma Dev. Anybody ever lay on a bed of arrows? Well, it's probably not very comfortable, right? I mean, it's pretty heavy. So Prabhupada says in the Purport, the tribulations a devotee undergoes is another transcendental bhav with the Lord. In other words, it's a loving exchange. Krishna puts us into these difficult situations to help us, to remove this residual enjoying mood, or, you know, if we're anyway, he's trying to help us out. So if we see it that way, it's a whole different dimension of reality. It's not like, oh, how could God do something like this to me? There was once a Jewish rabbi whose son had this really unusual disease where he, at the age of 14, he died of old age. His body just went very, very rapidly into aging. His name, this Jewish rabbi's name, was Hari Krishna. Not Krishna, but Krishna. And the title of his book, which became a bestseller and was avidly read by everybody except the Hare Krishnas, by the Jews, the Muslims, the Christians, the Catholics, the Protestants. It was like a bestseller for months and months and months. And do bad things happen to good people? Now, there's a whole area of philosophy called theodicy, which is kind of understanding how to deal with evil in the world. Evil, maybe, you know, the calamities. And so Hare Krishna, he came up with the conclusion that, you know, God's a good guy, he's trying his best, but he's not all powerful. So obviously we don't accept that. We understand that Krishna, okay, so I'm going to go on a little bit more, but he's our friend. You know, he loves us. He'll do anything he can to help us. It's actually described, okay, I got some more references for you. Here, this is 3.9.12 Bhagavatam. This is really amazing. This is Lord Brahma. He's praying for empowerment, for creation. And he says, you are situated in everyone's heart as Supersoul just to show your causeless mercy. You are the eternal well-wisher, but you are unavailable for the non-devotee. Wait a minute, no. Supersoul in the heart, and you're not available for the non-devotee? Okay, this sounds, I hadn't heard that one in a long time. So in a Purport, Prabhupada says, the Lord is unmindful of the non-devotees. Doesn't pay any attention to them. He'll let them go on. Do whatever they want to do. It's their problem. You are unavailable for the non-devotees. Okay, the Lord is unmindful of the non-devotees, although he is sitting within everyone's heart as well-wisher and Supersoul. However, he also gives them the chance to receive his mercy through, anybody guess? Through his pure devotees. That's right. And who are engaged in missionary activities, like all of you. And sometimes he comes as himself as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but for the most part he's mainly, you know, he sent Srila Prabhupada all over the world. I mean, talk about sinful people, my God, you know. The culture that I came from, mind-blowing. I won't tell you about it, okay? You won't want to hear from me. But it was the whole hippie culture, which is what was the pump primer for the Hare Krishna movement. Unbelievable. The level of nonsense that was just all pervasive within the hippie culture. But then Prabhupada, he was so focused that he had the mantra rock concert in San Francisco with all these famous rock musicians like Moby Grape and Janis Joplin, the Grateful Dead. You know, and that's how the Beatles that's how George Harrison found out about the Hare Krishna movement, and that's how things started in London, and how George Harrison came on board, and the devotees started recording albums, and then recorded Prabhupada, and then George Harrison, had all these songs about the Hare Krishna. So, and then the movement all over the world like wildfire, at least in the West. And then the dancing white elephants came to America. Came to India. And I'm one of them, So, but that was the whole plan of the Lord. So it's not that he can be accused of partiality, that he doesn't pay attention. He's unmindful of the non-devotees. But why is he? Why isn't he a dear friend of the non-devotees? He becomes such a friend of the devotees that there's verses in this purport 3.912. Prabhupada describes how he becomes a devotee of his devotee. So intense, the relationship. So why does he neglect the non-devotees? Because they're offensive. They're offensive to the devotees, they're offensive to the Lord. They just want to do their own thing. So, due course of time, they'll get smashed enough and they'll say, oh. I know the last year before I joined the movement, every day I discovered this mystic yogi and I was aware of another realm of reality. And so every day I would pray to God, please direct me to my guru. And then for 6 weeks I went through one miracle after another that brought me to the New York temple. And the very first day I visited an ISKCON temple, I joined, and the next day, which was my first full day, 16 rounds. And the whole miracle, this was completely mind-blowing. It gave me so much faith. So Krishna was there for me. I started showing some good signs. I started praying to him at least. I just used the word God. I came from my brother who's a Christian minister, my grandfather was a Christian minister, but I could never relate to Christianity. It just wasn't me. And kind of to the disturbance of my family, but that's the way it goes. But there actually, my mother said just before she left her body, I'm so glad that Jim, that's me, has dedicated his life to serving God. So they understand that this is a real thing. My brother, he was like a Harvard graduate, gave the commencement address at Harvard. He was such a bright guy. And, he's very appreciative. He says that there's a trend in Christianity now to really appreciate other traditions. And, he understands the validity. He just saw the amazing transformation that my life went through with the process of bhakti. Okay, stop talking about yourself, Janmastami. Okay, now, back to Tate Nukampam Shukshamikshamano. So, by coincidence, my first maha test took place the first time I visited Mayapur in 1981. I won't give you the details. It was heavy. I was thinking, do I really want to be in this Hare Krishna movement? I was thinking like that, And then I went to Vrindavan and tests were still going on. But when I got back to America, there's a sannyasi. He's not active anymore, but he advised me to learn 10-14-8, which I did. And I was amazed, this was prior to the 14th chapter of the 10th canto being published by the BBT. So I didn't really have all the philosophy there. I hadn't taken Bhakti Shastra yet. And when I did, in 1989, boy, it was Giriraj Swami gave all the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu verses that Krishnadas Kaviraj used in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It was basically a nectar devotion course, but poof, it was just mind-blowing. I never went through such a major transformation in my devotional career as I went through in that 1 month. In those days, all the Sankirtan devotees in America would get up at 2 a.m. Anybody here getting up at 2? No? That was the standard. Actually, I'll tell you the reason behind this. I got this confirmed by Savas Prabhu. In 1975, all of the book distributors in North America converged on the Atlanta Temple to get Srila Prabhupada's darshan. And they had in mind to get the magic formula to increase book distribution. So Savas Prabhu, who's now the temple president in Los Angeles. He's a North American BBT trustee. He's the longest tenured temple president in ISKCON's history. He became a temple president, I think it was in about 1983 or 4, like that, of the Denver temple. And then when calamities took place in Los Angeles, he moved to LA to kind of stabilize the LA temple when Anuttama took over as the temple president there. So Savas asked Srila Prabhupada a question that was that's been very foundational in the lives of many devotees. He said, Srila Prabhupada, how can we increase our desire to distribute your books? So then Srila Prabhupada went into a prolonged silence and he gazed at the ceiling in a meditative way. And then he finally said, if you really want to increase book distribution, if you really want to increase book distribution, then you will chant all of your rounds without stopping. In other words, don't turn your your dumb phone on until you finish your rounds, because it's the ultimate distraction in Kali Yuga, right? Anybody experience that? Okay. So I know you IIT guys are, probably smartphone addicts, but you could throw it in the Ganga while you're here, it might save you a lot of hassle. But anyway, I'm only kidding. I lost the train of thought. Can someone remind me of what I was last saying before I started making jokes about the dumb phone or smartphones? Oh yeah, that you should chant all of your rounds without stopping. Okay, so when I joined the movement in 1977, it was amazing. All of the brahmachari book distributors, and there were only brahmachari book distributors in those days, were all getting up at 2 a.m. And, I noticed years later when I got to know Savas that he was getting up at 2 a.m. So he came to the GBC meetings this year because he's a BBT trustee. And I asked Savas, Prabhu, did you get up at 2 a.m.? No, did everyone start getting up at 2 a.m. when you asked that question of Srila Prabhupada? And Prabhupada told you you should chant all of your rounds without stopping? And then Savas responded and said, I don't know about everybody else, but I did. So I'm sure that's where it all came from. And, in New York, we had the 55th Street Temple. It was an 11-story skyscraper, Midtown Manhattan. And in the winter, it gets really cold there. Sometimes way below 0 degrees Celsius. And it would cost $50,000 a month in those days to heat the temple. So obviously they didn't heat the temple. The only rooms that got heated was the altar and the restaurant. Okay, and so there was ice sheets on the wall in the shower room for the brahmacharis, and I got up at 1:45 to beat the log jam in the shower. But it was ecstatic. And then there was the Sankirtan leader put one of the team members kind of as a guard at the door to the temple room, because you had to have a really good excuse to leave the temple room, so that you wouldn't, just being sure that you chanted really good rounds. So that gave us a chance to get all our rounds done, read half hour, 45 minutes, an hour before Guru Puja and Bhagavatam class, and then out the door. We did huge. But that whole culture, in the mid-'80s was lost. I was taken off of book distribution, which I loved, and I was selling paraphernalia, non-devotional Korean oil paintings door to door with a 3-piece suit and a blonde wig and a 6'7" assistant to hold the paintings up on the wall to these multimillionaires in the Washington, D.C. metro area. It wasn't supportive to a devotional service, but it was widespread. And there was many devotees that had serious spiritual difficulties. A devotee would be sent to sell paintings in a mall with no temple, no association for the whole from mid-November to January 1. And a lot of them fell down. So, at any rate, Krishna has plans for all of us. Those that survived, that's what I went on a whole campaign to get book distribution going again, because it's such an important part of our devotional lives, and sadhana. So at any rate, I got up at 2:15 this morning. So usually I don't, with the aging process, health challenges, whatever. But it's powerful, to do that. So you can consider. I brought this up with several other devotees, and they're moving in that direction. But everybody did it. And it was just amazing, the level of Shakti that our movement had, the level of enthusiasm that was all pervasive. Everyone was just like gung-ho to push on Prabhupada's mission. So it really worked. And this is something, this is Prabhupada's genius, to spread Krishna consciousness like wildfire. So consider it. Probably within a month, Radhesham will implement it in the Pune temple, right? No, I'm not kidding. You're doing it already? Not yet? Okay, we'll start. You'll see, it's amazing. Yeah, rather than having 500 youth camp participants twice in a month, you'll have 5,000. Okay. No, it's just powerful. That's my experience, and I kept doing it for many, many years. It was actually about 5 years ago, a doctor at the Bhaktivedanta Hospital in Bombay said, "No, you shouldn't be doing this anymore. You're too old, to sleep so little." But I'm trying to get back to that, because it's really, Prabhupada was like that, He's just like all night long translating and then managing and preaching and traveling around the world 12 times in 14 years, 108 temples. Mantra Upashaka, spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. Okay, I got a little off track from the suffering, but I didn't want to steal the show from future class givers, because that's going to be answered there. But basically, it's Krishna consciousness, which it just eliminates the distress. I mean, I'll tell you one other thing. The next big Maha test I had one in Mayapur. And then a couple years later, I went to Vrindavan. And this was pre-bottled water days. And devotees that were in Vrindavan, just get water from the Gurukul. It's safe, don't worry. But I got so sick I won't go into all the details. It's called blood dysentery, but I had these abdominal cramps. I spent like 40% of my waking hours, guess where, and I had these abdominal cramps that probably were comparable to the pain at childbirth for a lady, just unbelievable. And but what I would do in the midst of these, and Keshava, he was the first book distributor in the movement from San Francisco, big book distributor, and he said we used to call it the knot Janmastami, that was because it was a regular occurrence, pre-water days, when Prabhupada was present. And what I did is I recited, I didn't understand all the philosophy, but I recited Tate Nukampam Sukshamikshamano, and it was amazing. I felt so blissed out, in spite of this, painful, disgusting circumstance. So it kind of gave me, it was a sneak preview of the power of that shloka and how it could be so valuable. What to speak of the philosophy behind it, which is so deep, that's covered to some extent with what I've brought up today. But you will understand that we get off of the bodily platform. It's the misidentification with matter, with our bodies that causes the distress. I mean, Prabhupada, at the end of his life, some of the doctors that were caring for him went to him and said, "Swamiji, we can't understand why you're not screaming for morphine. You must be in so much pain." And then he quoted from 10th canto, 1st chapter, the 4th text, Nivita Tarsher Upagiyamana Bhavosadakshtrotra Mano Biraman. Bhavosadakshtrotra Mano Biraman. This is my medicine. I just hear and chant. And then, you're completely transcendental. You just feel so much bliss. Let me give you a description This is, oh, let's see if I can find it right here real quickly. I still got time. There was a Bhagavad Gita sloka. No, I can't find it. It's not popping out of the page for me. Oh, here we are. Okay. This is 6, 22, and 23. In that joy, this is the level of Krishna consciousness that the process of sadhana bhakti can bring us to. So you're just completely oblivious to what's going on, with the pain and what have you. One time they had me, this was my second year, and they took me out of the airports in New York, and I was playing Santa Claus, giving people candy canes and asking them to donate for Food for Life. And I didn't really like the service. I was a pretty good Santa Claus. I got a lot of money. But what happened is I got this huge boil on the palm of my hand that came, So I went to the Sankirtan leader and showed it to him on Christmas Day because the marathon was over. And, there was a pink line going up my arm. I said, "You got blood poisoning, Prabhu. You got to go to the hospital right away." So I go into the emergency room of a nearby hospital in New York, and the doctors lanced the boil. And I was just chanting really intensely. And the doctor said, I don't know why you're not screaming. That must have hurt a lot. And, okay, here's the description. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness and enjoys himself through transcendental senses. Being situated in such a position, he's never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. Okay? Everybody ready to surrender? Okay, are there any questions or comments? And also, you have a right to punch me in the nose if you want. I'll give you permission if I need to be corrected. Questions, comments? There's one. Hey, can you turn off this fan so I'll hear? I got my hearing aids on, but the fan will block my hearing. Okay, nice, super loud for deaf old men.
The personality of Krishna is very controversial.
Okay, I'm not understanding. Okay, so could you kindly speak in American English too? Oh.
Very well, sorry.
Right close to your mouth. Yeah, there you go. Put it right on your mouth.
The mouth?
Yep. Don't bite it, but kiss it.
The Paramatma is in the heart.
Okay.
And he's see everything what you're doing,
Yeah.
And also Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he say, in the body I am the mind. So this is so powerful. If he is the mind, a Sahaja or a rascal or Mayavadi, he can say, "Oh, I'm Krishna too." Can you say something about it? I see Krishna mind in Srila Prabhupada because he coming in America very old, then the story. That's powerful what the mind of Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, that's why I seek. When Krishna say in the body, I am the mind. Not my mind. He's my mind, but I'm not Krishna. No, here is Krishna. Can you say something about this, Prabhu, please?
I hope I understand the question. Anybody want to give Achincha Chaitanya, could you clarify what he's asking?
He's saying that of the senses, Krishna is the mind.
Yeah, right. The opulence of the absolute, because that's so prominent in our lives, our mind, right? So, there's two verses, Gita 6.5 and 6.6. Urad atmanatmanam, natmanam anash. Oh, Krishna. I don't think I can remember them now. I don't have my shloka book here with me. But for one who's learned, then it goes on to say that one who's learned to control his mind, the mind is his best of friends. But for one who's failed to do so, his mind is his worst enemy. So, yeah, the thing is that with the Supersoul, for someone who's taken up the process of bhakti, then the Supersoul is like becomes more and more manifest and more present in the heart of a devotee. But for the non-devotee, then Krishna, he's the bird. These are these references about the bird, two birds. That's coming from the. Let's see, where is that? Yeah, the Mundaka Upanishad and the Svetasvatara Upanishad. It's actually the Pipala, the banyan tree. There's the two birds in the tree. So the Krishna's watching. We're one bird, and Krishna's the other bird, the Supersoul. He's just observing, and different arrangements. You see, okay, he did this nonsense. Next life. Gets into that situation, gets sufficient reactions. I'll give you an example. There was a friend of mine in high school whose father was a chain smoker, chain smoker, and he developed cancer of the larynx. And the way that the doctors in those times was dealing with cancer of the larynx, they would remove the voice box. And there was a hole there. And he would talk by, he would form his mouth around a belch, like he'd swallow air, and then he would belch. Anybody ever do that? You never did that? I used to do it all the time when I was a kid. It was like a good play game. So he would belch. That's because he didn't have vocal cords anymore. So, but he continued to smoke. He didn't learn his lesson, right? And he actually would smoke through the hole cut in his throat. Duh. Okay? So, and then he bled to death. His family rushed him to the hospital as the cancer had eaten into an aorta, an artery in his neck, and he bled to death on the way to the hospital. The blood just, streaming out of the hole in his neck. So maybe in the next life he won't be a cigarette smoker. Let's see. But that's how Krishna arranges things. He puts us in one situation after another, like the hippies or, the IIT students, so that they're a little bit stressed out. I need some shelter. There's a higher reality that exists beyond this. So the mind, quack, 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 it's making all kinds of noise all the time. Particularly, we become aware of that as new devotees, how it is a source of distraction for us, particularly when we're chanting japa. Anybody ever have that happen? That your mind bounces all over the universe? Has that happened to you, Prabhu? Okay. So I can help you with that. I have a solution. No, I can help you now, and then you can use it later, okay? But pramada, inattention, is the root cause of all the namat-bharats. Okay, so our minds bounce around. Okay, so I think my time is up. And Rasamanda Nityananda is probably going to come up here with a cane and put it around my neck and pull me off the Vyasasan. Okay, so I have a solution now for your problem, with the mind, the strong mind, which is the opulence of the Lord, within your senses. And that's this right here, okay? This is japa affirmations. This is the cream of 18 years of japa retreats with devotees like Indradyumna Swami, Giriraj Swami, Satchidananda Swami, Burijan Prabhu, Mahatma Prabhu, who's written the book. It's amazing. You know something? I've distributed over 5,000 of these in Mayapur in the last 3 years, in Bangla, in Hindi, in Russian, and in English. And, you know, the feedback I've gotten from so many devotees is, Janmastami Prabhu, this changed my life. It's actually had a huge impact on my life. I've been following the formula for the last 5 years of every day before I start my japa, I read one affirmation. It takes 2 or 3 minutes, but it helps set my consciousness in such a way so that I don't get diverted, you know, with all this bouncing all over the universe program. Okay? There you go. That's for you. Come and get it. No, okay, it's up to you. I'm not going to force you. Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Krishna is the mind. But if you want one, any of you that want to give it a try, go ahead. We don't sell them. It's dadati pratigrinanti.